Perakazav. We're on Nun Tes Amid Beis, about 8 lines up in the narrow lines. Amru Oisa Hayom. So we just said the whole story about the argument between Rebbe Elazar and the Chachamim about a certain type of oven, and Rebbe Elazar kept on trying to bring rayas from supernatural events, and the conclusion of the Gemara was that Loi Bashamayim. But Vaista is that Rebbe Elazar was still not in. What he did was not considered to be proper. Either his arguing about the halacha. So, Amru, we're 8 lines up in the narrow lines on Nun Tes Amid Beis. Amru, they took all the tyrus that Rebbe Elazar was metar because of his psak about this oven, the sar from Be'esh, they burnt them, v'nimnu alav u'barchu, and they got together and they put mevarachim, which is a euphemism where they put him into chayrim. Amru mi yelech v'yaydiyu. Said, who's going to go tell Rebbe Elazar that he's been put into chayrim? I'm going to go. Maybe someone who's not proper will go and they'll tell him that he was put into chayrim. And when Elazar finds out about it, because of his kayach, he will destroy the whole world. Ma asur Elazar, what masur Akiva? What did he do? Lava shchayrim, v'nisat of shchayrim. He wore black clothing and he put on a black coat. And he sat 4 amas away from Rebbe Elazar to let him know that he wasn't allowed to approach closer because he was in chayrim. Amaloi Rabbi Elazar, Akiva, my yami yamayim. He said to him, what's going on today? Amaloi Rabbi, k'medumali shechaverim badilim imcha. Rabbi Akiva told him, it looks like everyone's staying away from you. Afhu kara begadav. When Rebbe Elazar heard this, he was raised kriya. V'cholotz menalav. He took off his shoes. V'nishmat v'yashav al gabe karki. He sat down on the ground. Zolgoy nivdmois. He started to cry. Laka olam shlish bezeisim. The shlish bechitim v'shlish b'sayrim. A third of the olives and the barley and the wheat all got destroyed. V'yeshayim af batzak shebidei isha tafach. Even the dough that was in a woman's hand got ruined because of the kayach of Rebbe Elazar's bechia. Hana af gadol, change the word to af gadol. Great anger. What happened on the day? Shebachol makom shenosna be'einav Rebbe Elazar nisr. Wherever Elazar put his eyes, it got burned off. Up. Gamliel was traveling on a boat. Because of the force of Elazar's anger, it started a tsunami that almost overturned the boat of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi, and he was the head of the Chachamim that had disagreed and put him into Chayr. Rabbi Gamliel realized that this was because of Rabbi Elazar. Amar al Raglav, he stood on his legs. Amar Rabban Shalom, Golav Yidul Fanechshal Chvoid Yasis, Chvoid Beis Abbasis. I didn't put him into Chayr because of my own covet. El Chvoid Cha, it was for your covet. Shaloi Yirbu Machlekes B'Yisrael. He said he didn't want it to be. The problem with Rabbi Elazar was that he was arguing against the rabbim, and the halacha is Achri Rabbim Lahatis, and he was trying to bring rayas from the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's not the way the Torah was given. The Torah was given to the Chacham to decide. So Rabbi Elazar had done the wrong thing. So Rabbi Gamliel was justifying the reason why I had to fight with him. I had to put him in chayrim is because he was undermining the whole basis for psak. Nachayam mizafri. So when Rabbi Gamliel explained, the waters calmed down. Amos Shalom devisu Rabbi Elazar. This woman named Amos Shalom, who was the wife of Rabbi Elazar, Achsei de Gamliel, was also the sister of a Gamliel. So she was stuck in the middle. Her husband was the one who was angry, and her brother was the one who put him into chayrim. From the time of this ma'isa, she never allowed her husband, Rebbe Elazar, to be neifel tachnun. The force of that tefillah, she was afraid would kill her brother. If he was able to daven with a full takeif of saying tachnun, then it would cause her Gamliel to die. How yuma reish yachava? One day it was the Rosh Chodesh. And his wife, Rabbi Elazar's wife, got mixed up. She thought it was a chaser, so she thought it was already Rosh Chodesh, but really it was a Malay. And Rosh Chodesh was the following day. So therefore, she didn't watch over her husband to make sure he didn't say Tachnun, because she thought he wasn't going to say Tachnun because of Rosh Chodesh. She got the wrong day. Some people say there wasn't nothing to do with Rosh Chodesh and Tachnun, nothing to do with that, but it was because there was the ani that came to the door, Afikale Rifta, and she went out to bring him something to eat. Ashkachte denafal ampe. Now, either case, whatever happened, she came back and she found Rabbi Lazar was already falling down for Tachnun. Amalei kum katlis la'achi. She said, "Get up! You're going to kill my brother, Rabbi Gamliel." Adahachi nafik shipura mibeis Rabbi Gamliel deshachav. But it was too late. Once he said Tachnun, and Taka happened like that, and his Tachnun caused Rabbi Gamliel to be nifted. Amallah mino yadis. He said to her, "How did you know that my Tachnun was going to kill him?" Amalei kach mekumlani beisavi Abba beis avi Abba from my father's house. Kol ha'sha'arim ninolim chutz mishari yono. All the gates are closed except for the shar of Oino. So we said that Rashi says means that when a person cries, so a person is neifel al apayim, when he's false tachlin, it says like a form of weeping, of mourning. So that when Rabbi Elazar was feeling that strong type of tefillah, she knew that would be miskabel, and therefore Gamliel was nift. Ton Rabbanan, Hama'anes Hager, Oive b'shloisha lavin. I'm just trying to think, is this the whole reason why we brought this whole Maisa? Or was there a different justification for it at the beginning? I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's a long time ago. Tanaraban. Hama'anes hager over b'shloisha lavin. Someone who insults a ger, he's over in 3 lavin. And someone who oppresses him, over b'shnayim. Why we're going to ask on this? Why are you saying that it's only 2? The reason why when someone's ma'ana, when he insults a ger, it's 3 lavin, it says v'ger loisayna, v'chiyager itcha ger ba'atzchem loisanu oisay, loisanu ish samisay v'ger b'chal amisay. How do you get to 3? Because it says loisanu ish es amita, and ger is b'chal amita. If that's the case, who loisaynu amish loisay v'leitach chal senu l'gabi ger v'ger loisay v'liya by kenoishich v'ger b'chal who. It says the last one is you shouldn't oppress someone talking about someone who owes you money, but a ger is also included in that. So once you're saying ger is b'chlal, I should also be b'chlal l'chitza gabi pressing it. Ella echad b'shloish. The Gemara says they're both 3. Tanya b'lazar galam ne'ma zira Torah b'lam dvav zira Torah b'lam dvav mekayis v'amalo b'memvav mekayis b'ger. Why is it that the Torah gives so many azharas l'gabi ger, either with 36 or with 46, but a great number of azharas to not oppress a ger? So when Meisha Surura, which Rashi explains in a different Masech, he explains that since a ger did things wrong before he became a yid, if you're going to oppress him, he's going to think back to those things, and it's going to make him be chayzer. It's going to make him go back to them. He's going to think he's going to lose faith. He's going to lose his determination to be a yid. And once someone is makabel to be a yid, even if he changes his mind, he remains a yid. It's going to cause him to do. He's going to have more Yetzer Hara. What does this pasuk mean to tell you? It's telling you shouldn't make fun of a ger for being a ger, because you also ger. Originally you were in Mitzrayim. Behind the entry, the zakif leskifa b'diyukte, someone who has a criminal who is hanged in his background, in his ancestry. Don't tell his friend to hang up a fish. You don't use the word hanging. You don't want to bring up something that you have a blemish on your background, you don't bring it up under any context, even though you're not talking about hanging people, you're talking about hanging fish. You avoid the topic. You have to be sensitive. Zak the Mishnah.
Isn't it a totally different concept? Gerim, they converted. We never converted. We were Gerim. It was we lived there temporarily. It's a different.
You're saying the word of ger yizaracha is used in a whole different context. It's not used in the context of a ger who was converted, right? But in the end, you know, we were all nimel and we all makabel all malchus shamayim. The point is ger. Even accepting that the word is not right, but the concept is right, right? We originally were not avodim hayinu, and b'tchilo avdei avodah zara hayu by saying, in Achshav Kavanu, we were at one point not the Klal Yisrael. We had to be Mekabelit.
But it's nothing to do with being in Mitzrayim.
Well, in Mitzrayim is when we switched. After Mitzrayim, we went to Har Sinai and we became Yidden.
Right, but
that's when we were Mekabel the Torah. But the point is just that don't hold yourself above it. That's the point. Don't make fun of someone. You're not any better than them. Your father was a Yid. So your great grandfather was Oived Avodah Zarah in Mitzrayim. That's the point.
And then I hear.
Okay.
Where are you holding?
We're starting the Mishnah right on the bottom of Nun Tes Amud Beis. Yeah, we're getting to a very communist Mishnah. Not this one, but the next one is I'm gonna have a hard time with. Ein ma'arvin Paris b'Paris. We're talking about different types of sharp business practices that you're not allowed to do. So you can't mix different Paris with other Paris. Afilu chadoshim b'chadoshim. Even if you're doing new ones, new Paris with other new Paris. Because the person agreed to get from one. He saw this group and he said, "I want to buy from this group." Don't mix in another group that he didn't agree to. You certainly can mix new ones into old ones. Meaning, we're talking about tvua. And tvua, it seems, the older tvua was generally better than the newer tvua. The older tvua was more dried out, and it was, per pound, it had less moisture and more flour. So when you ground it up, you ended up with more from the older one. So you certainly can't, if you bought older tvua, you can't mix in order to, increase the amount. You can't increase the weight, mix in some of the lesser quality new ones. Amru. However, they say halacha, the Gemara is going to say halacha l'maisa is the yayin hitiru la'arav kosher barach. You can mix in stronger wine with weaker wine because of neshehu mashmichai. Stronger wine is better than weaker wine. So if you can mix in a little bit of stronger wine to make the weaker wine better if he had agreed to buy weaker wine. Ein ma'arvin shimrei yayin b'yayin. You can't mix in sediments of wine into wine. But you can put in the sediment. The Gemara is going to explain. Ultimately, the Gemara is going to explain is you can put back in when you're pouring out the wine. We had this before. When you pour from a barrel, the sediments of that barrel get left behind. So you can afterwards include it in. Like we said before, that you could include it separately is even better than giving it separately than pouring it back in. But you can, before you sell it, pour it back in. What you can't do is take shmarim of a different wine and put it together, the sediment of a different wine, and put it together, because then the taste mixed and it's not good. Mishan is arv mayim b'yenoi. Someone who has water mixed into his wine, lo yim karenu b'chanus. He can't sell it in the store. Elam kein hoidiyai. He has to make a disclaimer. He has to have the Surgeon General's warning that you're buying diluted wine. V'loy tagar, but you can't sell it to a wholesaler. Alpha bisha idea, even though you let him know. Because then the tagar is going to resell it, and he's not going to say anything. As we've seen, these wholesalers are not to be trusted. Right? We said before you couldn't give him the coins that were missing because they were gonna use them. A place where the minig is to put water into the wine, they always diluted it. Yatilu. Then you could do so. Hatagar noitel mehei groinus. granis, a wholesaler can take tfua from 5 different places, 5 different sellers, and he could put them all together. And he could take from 5 different wine presses and put it into one barrel. As long as his intention, he's not doing it where he's trying to dilute something that he spent more of. Like he's trying to sell, Dom Perignon, and he's mixing in some cheap Bartonura. So if he's trying to mix it in to get a higher price for lower quality stuff, then he can't do so. It goes without saying that, like when we talk about me'arba, it means something that you sell arba soin, which is a measure of volume for a seller, and yeshenis mishalish. And if the older one, which we said is higher quality, you get 3 soin for a seller, so it's more expensive. Obviously, you can't mix in the new one, which is cheaper, into the old one that's more expensive, because then you're diluting it with something cheaper. That certainly can't do. Even if it's the other way around, where in this particular case the chadashis is from Nebraska, it's high quality, and the yeshenis is from Uruguay. It's a lower quality tour. So just inherently, it's a cheaper one, even though yeshenis generally are more expensive. In this particular case, the chadashis are more expensive. Even so, ein ma'arvin misha adam roitza liyashna, because the reason why is if you're going to mix in the new one with the old one, the new one, even if it's more expensive, you're going to want to wait for it. And the person who's buying the old one, he wants to use it right away. So you're making it difficult for the person who's buying it, that he's now going to have to take something. He thought it was old, even though he thought it was cheaper old, lower quality old, but at least he can use it right away. When you mix in some of the new ones, he has to wait longer. We said it's the halacha is, we'll see what that means. Amra b'laza, ada amra, we said, called be'emes amru halachi. Whenever the Mishnah used the lashon be'emes amru, it means to say that that's taka the halacha l'maisa. So halacha l'maisa is you can mix in a stronger wine into a weaker wine, because it makes it better. Amrav Nachman, ubein hagisa sham. We only said this when you're at the wine presses, but if it's whatchamacallit, because then it's at the time that they're making the wine. But if it's not when you're at the beginning of the process, when you're making the wine, but rather at a later time, you're in the retail store, mixing together different types of wine is not salutary for the taste of the wine. It makes it worse. But now that people are noig that they mix wine even at a later point in the process, Amarab Papa di Yadi, we see that people do it. How are they allowed to do it? Amarab Papa di Yadoi. We're talking about that which people do it now, where sellers do it, and they do mix even eshaloi ben akisis, and even later in the process, is because the purchasers know that it's being done. They come machli and then moich. Rav Acha Brei Avika Amar, Hamani Rav Achi. This is according to Rav Acha. The Tanya Rav Acha matir b'davar hanitam. Rav Acha allowed it with something that's tasted, meaning that people would taste the wine before they bought it. So once they're tasting it, it doesn't make a difference that you mixed in something else. It doesn't make, if the person likes the taste, it's irrelevant of what happened before. So that seems a different explanation of why people are moich. Ve'ein ma'arvin shamre yayin b'yayin. Avol noisen lo yishmar. The Gemara said, the Mishnah said this strange phrase, which is hard to understand. You're not allowed to mix in the sediment of wine into wine, but you could put in the sediment. First part says you can't put in the sediment, and the second part says you could. And if you say, what does it mean that you could put in the shmarav in the sefer? It means if you let him know. Later on, we say that you can't give diluted wine. You can't sell it in a chanus in a store unless you let the store owner know that it's diluted, and you can't give it to wholesaler even though you let him know. If we first start talking about being made in the safe, advice says before that we weren't talking about where the person knew what he was getting. On review the harikama. Aim arvin shmarim shel emesh b'shel yoim. Shel yoim b'shel emesh. It's coming to say is you can't take the shmarim of a different. He said we give the example of the previous day, but the point is you can't take shmarim of a different cask and mix it in with this cask, and not vice versa. I will noise and lay a shmarim, but you can't put its own shmarim into it because that's not going to make it taste any worse. Tanya nami hachiv yido aimer hashoifa yayin lechaveret. The shayfa Rashi describes is what we're talking about, where he pours out from a barrel and it leaves over the shmarim behind. He can't take the shmarim from something else and mix it in. But he can mix in the same shmarim from the wine that he poured out. Someone who mixed in water into his yain. He can't sell it in a store. That's what we said in the Mishnah. He can only sell in the store if he lets the people know. Rava was brought wine from a store, mazge, and he diluted it. That was the typically people before they drank would dilute the wine. Tame, then he tasted it. Lehava bosim, it didn't taste good. Shadri lechanusa, he said, bring it back to the store. This is a sour wine. It's no good. Amalei Abaye. Abaye said to him, said, how could Rava have sent it back to the store? You're not allowed to send it back to a wholesaler. I guess we assumed it was a wholesaler, this seller. How could you send it back to him, even if you get your money back, but now you're giving him something that we suspect he's going to pawn off on other people that's already diluted. Amalei Mazgadidi Mediyadi. He said, Rava said no, because I put in so much water that it's not like you get away with selling it as pure wine. It's very obvious that it's diluted. And if you'll say, but it's still a problem because the tagar is going to just add more wine till it gets to a point where the people won't realize it's diluted. He says, if you're going to say that, then even when you sell regular wine, how do you know he's not going to dilute it? So the reason that takana is just you can't sell diluted wine. But overly diluted wine or non-diluted wine is not a problem, even though if the tagar is really intent on diluting it, he can do so. Talking about a place where the minig is to put wine in, you can do so. We learned that it could be whatever the place is. If they do half water or a third water or a quarter, whatever the halacha, whatever the minig is. Amarav ubein hagisa shanu, and Rav says this is all if you do it right at the beginning when they're actually making the wine. That's the minig. But doing it later is not the minig, and people won't suspect. Zok the Mishnah. This is now the communist Mishnah. You're not allowed to advertise. You can't give out candy and nuts to children when they come by from you. Because you're going to hurt everyone else's business. You're going to advertise. You're going to get all the kids to come. Now listen, we all understand this. I don't know, whoever's been in a bungalow colony, when the ice cream truck comes with the music, and the kids say, "I want an ice cream," it's very hard to resist. So if you advertise to kids, it's taka makes it difficult not to buy, and it's an unfair business advantage. The Chachamim matir, the Chachamim allow it. The Gemara will explain why the Chachamim mat. But the reason why not is because you're it's like a form of hasagas gvul. You're causing another person to lose business. You can't undercut you can't offer things for less than their going price. I'm not sure exactly how this interacts with the halachas of Eina. Someone's going to do that. What's going to happen? Then he's going to go to the people and say, "You have to pay me." because I sold it for less than the market price. Maybe this is talking about, I'm not sure. I guess maybe it's talking about these things like behemoths that you're allowed to, or maybe it's talking about less than a sixth.
Right. Didn't we say if you're Michael it, then it's fine?
If you what?
If you're Michael, obviously you're saying
Right. The people are Michael. That's true. So if you let them know, you say I'm selling it for if they, yeah.
Or like the way you explained it to me with I know, right? Without even not enough, fair market value has a built-in rebach going to the seller, obviously. So if he gives up on that rebach, you're not even because you're not going to come into the in situation.
Could be that's considered built in. Right, before the I know is only after the profit, maybe. But someone who offers thing at a lower price, he's doing a good deed. Like Yavores Hagrisin, you shouldn't clean out. The grisen was a kind of bean. Usually they would normally sold in dirt. You can't clean it off because then you're gonna sell it for a higher price and you're gonna cause problems for everyone else who's trying to sell it. Everyone agrees, even the Chacham agree, you can't just clean up the top bunch of beans and leave the dirt on bottom. All you're doing is fooling the guy. He thinks the whole thing is clean. In the meantime, it's only the top. You can't be mefarkas, which the Gemara is going to explain is different ways of beautifying when you're selling a eved. An adam means an eved, or a behema, or a kalim. You can't beautify them. The Gemara is going to describe exactly how you would beautify it to make it more attractive for sale. So, why did the Rabbanan say in the first thing that you can be mechat, that they allowed you to give kids trinkets to induce them to come shop there? The Amalei, the reason is amguzi, ba'at paluk shiski. I'll say because the person who's doing this saying, listen, I'm giving away nuts, you can give away fruit. You can give something better. You can compete. It's a free market. So what do you care if I'm advertising? You also advertise. Don't blame me. We said you can't undercut the market, and the Chum say no. If you do so, it's good. My time of the Rabbanan. Why did the Rabbanan allow it? So because when he does it, he's going to cause the price, the shar to go down, and he's helping everyone. He's going to cause everyone to benefit, and so adarab it's zachalatai. V'layibor es hagrisin. We said you can't clean out the beans. Divrei Abishol v'cham matir. Man chachamim hu adis chacham Reb Acha. So Reb Acha, the Tanya Reb Acha matir b'davar hanira. Reb Acha allows you to beautify your merchandise if it's visible. So if you're doing something that you could see that it's better, you're not deceiving them. As long as you don't just do the top and you do the whole thing, the people who are buying it are paying for what they're getting. So they're happy for the convenience. You can't beautify an eved or a behema or a kelim. You can't be mesharbet. So Rashi's sharbet is a sharbet azov, like a scepter. But it means over here in this context, Rashi says to straighten out the hair of a behema. Makes it look better. You can't cause their insides to blow up, to make them seem fatter than they are, so people will want to buy them for more money. After you shecht an animal, you can't soak it in water because that makes it look fatter, also like a better quality meat. Mayin mesharbetin. What is this mesharbetin? Hacha tirgamu maya de chazira. Over here, I guess in Bava, they said you would give it maya de chazira. You could give him a certain type of water that would blow him up and make his hair stick out. Zira Amar Rav Kahana mizakafta. He says b'shem Rav Kahana is just you'd brush the animal's hair to make it stick up. Shmuel shara lemirma turmi l'sarbala. Rav Shmuel allowed the people who are selling begadim, Rashi says, to put on like a tassel at the end of it. Yehuda shara l'chsachsuchi krami. and Rabbi Yehuda allowed to what does Rashi say? Suchi krami. I'm shiblaz. The mei subin. They would use with water with bran in it or something in it that would make it stiffer. It would make the
Right, so the
shirt
article
crack.
says starch.
Okay. Oh, you make a starch shirt. You'd make it very stiff. Rabba shara lamedic tsardi. Rabba allowed to hit it like tsardi. I think was normally like a loom. He would hit it in order to make it look better. Rava shara l'tzalumi giri. Rava allowed them to paint arrows. Rapapa bar Shmuel shara l'tzalumi dikuli. Allowed them to paint baskets. Why are we allowing these things? We said you can't beautify them. So that which we say you were allowed to do it, it's talking about a brand new one. So when you're beautifying it, you're not covering over any flaws. But atiki, when we say in the Mishnah that you can't make the animal's hair stand straight up, that's to make it look younger than it really is. So this is all with an animal. These strategies to make an animal look better. But how do you make a person look better, more Aved look better than he is? So Yehuda who Avda Saba, there was this old Eved, the Azul Tzave L'Reishe L'Dikne. He colored the hair of his head and his beard. He colored it black, even though he was older and white. He had white hair. Also, Kamei the Rav, he came to Rava Amalei Zivnin. He said, "Why don't you buy me?" I guess he wanted out from his old master. He said, Amalei, maybe it was an Eved Ivri, I don't know. He said to him, I'm not going to hire you. He said, better, rather than buying an Eved, better to pay Aniyim to work for you, so you can provide them with Parnasa. Also, made a papa, so this Eved went to a papa bar Shmuel Zavne, and Papa bar Shmuel Taka hired him as an Eved. He bought him. Yumachad Amalei Ashkina Mayim. Then his new master, Papa bar Shmuel, asked him to bring him water. Also, he took off the black from the black dye from his hair. He said, "Look, I'm older than your father." He says, "I'm too old. You can't. It's not bakavedik. You're not allowed to ask me." There's a chiyuv of seva takum. I guess even for an eved. So he embarrassed him that he couldn't ask him for any work. It says that a tzaddik is saved from a tzara, meaning Rava, who realized not to hire this guy because he quoted the pasuk of hiring an ani, he was saved from dealing with this union eved who got himself out of doing work, and now I got it. Someone else gets in his place. I'm the one who got stuck with him. Okay. We're going to start tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure what time. I might have some responsibilities, but I urge everyone to try to look at it yourself a little bit, get yourself a little familiar with the concepts of Neshech and Tarbis and Saw B'Saw. Even if you look at the introduction of the Hazav in the art scroll, will take 5 minutes. I think it'll be worthwhile. Okay, have a good
8:30 tomorrow morning? Or you're not sure?
Yeah, we're going to learn tomorrow morning. I'll let you know exactly what time. I'm just not. I don't have the time.
It won't be